the old warrior's silhouette cut against the crimson Arizona sunset, his weathered face a map of battles fought and lost. 10 years since he'd abandoned his people, choosing solitude over the slow death of reservation life. Now, a small boy stood before him, tears cutting clean lines through dust-covered cheeks, tiny hand extended in desperate plea. "My mama can't breathe anymore," the boy whispered, voice trembling like autumn leaves. The warrior's hand instinctively moved to the medicine pouch he'd sworn never to touch again. Could a man who couldn't save his own family possibly help this child? Would the spirits even listen to one who had turned his back on the old ways? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Two Rivers stared at the boy for a long moment, the wind whispering through the sage around his isolated dwelling. His weathered hands trembled slightly as they dropped from the medicine pouch at his neck. 10 summers of solitude had dulled his connection to others, yet something in the child's eyes pierced through his carefully constructed walls. "Where is she?" His voice came out rough, unused to speaking aloud except to his shadow. The boy pointed toward the jagged hills to the east. "In the shadow cave beyond the 3 standing rocks." She said, "Find the man who walks with spirits." His small chest heaved with effort. "She said you would help." Two Rivers grunted and turned away, moving toward the clay water bowl that sat outside his modest shelter. He dipped a wooden cup into the cool liquid, handed it to the boy, then watched as the child drank with desperate thirst. "What is your name?" he asked, noticing the boy's moccasins were worn through, his small feet caked with desert dust and streaked with blood from the journey. "Little Fox," the boy said between gulps. "My mother is Mourning Dove." The names meant nothing to Two Rivers, yet relief washed through him. He had feared the boy might belong to someone from his past, someone who would recognize what he had once been, what he had failed to be. Inside his dwelling, Two Rivers gathered minimal supplies. Some dried herbs he'd collected more from habit than intention, strips of clean cloth, a small knife. His hands moved with muscle memory from a life he'd abandoned, touching each item with reluctance. "We go now?" Little Fox asked, standing in the doorway, his small frame backlit by the dying sun. Two Rivers nodded once. "We go now, but I promise nothing." He secured his modest supplies in a leather pouch and slung it across his back. "The journey is not easy after dark." "I know the way," Little Fox said with childish confidence. "I found you, didn't I?" Two Rivers allowed himself a brief, humorless smile. "So you did." As they set out, the last crimson streaks faded from the sky. Two Rivers observed the boy's determined stride, his occasional stumble betraying his exhaustion. Something twisted inside the old warrior's chest, a feeling long buried beneath years of self-imposed exile. "Rest," he commanded, stopping abruptly. He knelt and examined the boy's bleeding feet in the growing moonlight. Without comment, he tore strips from his own shirt, binding the worst of the cuts. "My mother cannot breathe," Little Fox reminded him, anxious to continue. "You will be no help to her if you cannot walk," Two Rivers replied, his tone softening despite himself. He lifted the small boy onto his back. "Point the way." As they continued through the desert night, Two Rivers felt the weight of the medicine pouch against his chest. Inside were the sacred items of his former life: eagle feather, polished stone, dried sage, and the small bone whistle that could call to the spirits. He had not opened it in 10 summers, not since the day he had failed to save his wife and daughter from the white man's disease. Now, carrying this determined child through the darkness, Two Rivers wondered if the spirits had sent Little Fox to punish him, or to redeem him. The stars wheeled overhead, ancestral eyes watching his return to a world he had forsaken. Two Rivers quickened his pace, guided by the small finger pointing their path and the insistent whisper of destiny at his back. The desert night embraced them with its cool breath as two rivers carried little Fox through the shadowed landscape. Stars punctured the vast darkness overhead, ancestral spirits keeping silent vigil. The boy's weight was slight, too slight, and two rivers noted how the child's ribs pressed against his small frame. "You have not eaten well," he observed, voice low. Little Fox's head rested against his shoulder. "The food ran out 3 suns ago. Mama gave me her share." Two Rivers' jaw tightened. He had known hunger in his years alone, but had chosen it. This child had not. "We will rest soon," he said, continuing their steady pace across rocky terrain. "There is a place ahead with water." The moonlight illuminated the path just enough to navigate the treacherous footing. Two Rivers moved with the sureness of one who had walked these lands for decades, his feet finding purchase where others might stumble. "What is that?" Little Fox asked suddenly, pointing to a glimmer at his neck. Two Rivers glanced down to see the boy fingering a small pendant hanging from a leather cord, a polished moonstone that caught the night's glow. "Mama gave it to me," Little Fox explained. "She says it helps find the way when lost." His small fingers traced the smooth surface. "Like tonight." Two Rivers studied the stone. Such items often carried power beyond their appearance. Not magic as white men understood it, but connection to the greater forces that bound all living things. "Your mother is wise to give you such protection," he said finally. "She sings to it sometimes." Little Fox continued, his voice growing drowsy. "Songs about the ancestors watching from the stars." Two Rivers looked upward at the mention of ancestors. For 10 years, he had avoided their gaze, had turned from their counsel. Now he felt their eyes upon him once more. They reached a small, hidden spring just as the moon touched the western horizon. Two Rivers gently set Little Fox down beside the water and watched as the boy cupped his hands to drink. "Rest now," Two Rivers instructed, settling beside a rocky outcropping that offered some protection from the night wind. "We continue at first light." Little Fox curled against him without hesitation, trust evident in the gesture. Two Rivers stiffened, then slowly relaxed. How long since another being had sought comfort in his presence? As the boy's breathing deepened into sleep, Two Rivers remained alert, scanning the desert for signs of danger. In the distance, he could make out the faint glow of a settlement, white men's buildings encroaching ever further into Apache lands. His people were scattered now. Some lived on the reservation, accepting the white man's terms. Others fled into the mountains, clinging to the old ways despite hardship. And some, like himself, chose solitude, neither of the old world nor the new. The moonstone pendant glinted against Little Fox's chest as he slept. Two Rivers reached out hesitantly, then drew back his hand without touching it. Such items carried memories, and memories were dangerous things. "What spirits guide you, little one?" he whispered to the sleeping child. "And why have they led you to me?" The desert offered no answer but the soft whisper of wind through sage. Two Rivers settled his back against the rock, one hand resting protectively near the boy. In the east, the faintest lightning of the sky promised dawn was not far off. Morning would bring them closer to the boy's mother, and to whatever fate awaited them there. Two Rivers closed his eyes briefly, not to sleep but to center himself. The medicine pouch at his chest seemed heavier now, laden with responsibility he had long ago rejected. Yet here he was, returning to the world of obligation and connection, led by a child with determined eyes and a moonstone pendant. Dawn broke over the eastern hills, painting the landscape in gold and amber as Two Rivers and Little Fox approached a rocky outcropping. The boy had insisted on walking the final stretch, though Two Rivers noted his limping gait with concern. There, Little Fox pointed toward a narrow fissure in the stone face, barely visible unless one knew to look for it. "Mama is inside." Two Rivers approached cautiously, senses alert. The entrance was well chosen, defensible, hidden from casual observation, with good sight lines of the surrounding terrain. Whoever this morning dove was, she possessed wisdom of the old ways. Inside, the cave opened to a modest chamber. Shafts of morning light filtered through small crevices overhead, illuminating a figure lying on a bed of blankets. Two Rivers' eyes adjusted to the dimness, taking in the scene with a healer's practiced assessment. The woman was young, perhaps 30 summers, her face gaunt but still holding traces of beauty. A handmade quilt covered her thin frame, its patchwork surface telling stories in fabric and thread. Each square held different patterns: lightning bolts, eagle feathers, flowering cacti, and other symbols of Apache life. "Mama!" Little Fox rushed to her side, taking her hand. "I brought him, the medicine man." Two Rivers flinched at the title he had long rejected. Mourning Dove's eyes opened dark, fever-bright, but lucid, and fixed upon him with startling intensity. "You came," she whispered, each word clearly costing effort. Her breathing was labored, a wet rattle accompanying each inhalation. "The spirits said you would." Two Rivers knelt beside her, professional detachment warring with unwanted compassion. "Your son is persistent." He reached out, hesitating briefly before placing his hand on her forehead. The skin burned beneath his touch. "How long have you been ill?" "The moon has waxed and waned twice," she answered, suppressing a cough. "It comes from the reservation." Two Rivers understood immediately. Tuberculosis, the white man's disease that had claimed so many, including his own family. His heart hardened against the memories. "You should have stayed there," he said. "They have medicines." A bitter smile touched her lips. "They have death houses where our people go to die away from white eyes." Her gaze shifted to her son. "I would not have him see me fade in such a place." Two Rivers opened his medicine pouch, more from habit than hope. He knew what tuberculosis could do, how it consumed from within, how it resisted the old healing ways. "Why seek me?" he asked, arranging his meager supplies. "I am no longer of the people." "The dream showed your face," she said simply, "and spoke your name. Two Rivers, where waters meet and change course." He stilled. Few knew that name now. He had been called differently in his years as a healer, Swift Hand, for his skill with poultice and bandage. Two Rivers was the name given at his birth, before his path was known. Little Fox watched with solemn eyes as Two Rivers examined his mother, listening to her lungs, checking her pulse. The boy seemed older than his years, weathered by hardship and responsibility. "You ran from the reservation," Two Rivers stated, not a question. Mourning Dove nodded weakly. "They would take my son. Put him in the school where our language dies on children's tongues." Two Rivers understood. He had seen what those schools did, breaking spirits as thoroughly as any battlefield. "If I cannot heal you," he began. "You will take my son to the hidden people," she interrupted, gripping his wrist with surprising strength. "Promise me this." Two Rivers looked at Little Fox, then back to the quilt covering Mourning Dove, each patch a memory, a story, a piece of heritage preserved through woman's craft when so much else was lost. "I make no promises," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. Mourning Dove's eyes held his, seeing through his pretense. "You already have," she whispered, "the moment you followed my son into the desert night." Morning light strengthened as Two Rivers knelt at the cave entrance, crushing dried sage leaves between his palms. The familiar scent transported him to another time, when healing had been his purpose rather than his burden. He gathered several plants growing in the rocky soil nearby, their medicinal properties known to him from childhood teachings. Inside, Little Fox watched his every movement with unwavering attention. "What is that one?" the boy asked, pointing to a spiny plant Two Rivers had collected. "Desert mullein," Two Rivers answered, surprising himself with his willingness to explain. "It helps with breathing when made into tea." He demonstrated how to separate the useful parts from the rest. Your mother will drink this 3 times each day. Little Fox nodded solemnly. I will remember. As Two Rivers prepared the remedies, his hands moved with practiced efficiency. He heated water in a small tin cup Mourning Dove had among her few possessions, steeping the herbs carefully. The familiar ritual centered him, pushing back the memories that threatened to overwhelm his concentration. You were a great healer, Mourning Dove observed from her palate, voice slightly stronger after drinking the first preparation. The stories say many were saved by your hands. Two Rivers' jaw tightened. Stories often lie, and often contain truth, she countered, watching him with those disconcerting eyes that seemed to see beyond his carefully constructed walls. Little Fox had ventured to the cave entrance, giving them a moment of privacy. Two Rivers took the opportunity to speak frankly. This medicine will ease your breathing, but it will not cure what ails you. His voice was low, meant only for her ears. The white man's disease has taken root deep in your lungs. She nodded, unsurprised. I know my path grows short. That is why I must know. Will you take my son to safety when I am gone? Two Rivers looked away. There is no safety for our people now. There are those who have found a way, she insisted. In the high mountains to the north, a place the white eyes have not discovered. Her hand gripped his with surprising strength. Little Fox has a future there, not on the reservation or in the white man's world. Two Rivers remained silent, considering her words. He had heard rumors of such communities. Apache who had escaped the reservation system, living in hidden valleys, preserving the old ways. He had dismissed them as wishful thinking, desperate dreams of a defeated people. Little Fox returned, carrying small twigs for the fire. Two Rivers watched the boy arrange them with care, his small hands competent and sure. Something stirred in the old healer's heart, an emotion he had walled away years ago. Rising abruptly, Two Rivers stepped outside, needing distance from the intimacy of the cave, from the weight of Mourning Dove's expectations. He drew his knife and began shaping a piece of wood he had carried in his pouch, the blade carving with practiced strokes. When Little Fox joined him later, Two Rivers handed him the finished piece, a small wooden horse, its lines simple but elegant, capturing the spirit of motion in static form. The boy's eyes widened. For me, Two Rivers nodded. A warrior should have a good horse. Little Fox ran his fingers over the smooth surface, wonder replacing the worry that had lined his young face. Thank you. He paused, then asked, Will you make my mother well? Two Rivers met the child's hopeful gaze. The truth hovered on his lips, that some illnesses were beyond even the most skilled healer's arts. Instead, he said, I will do what I can. The promise was inadequate, but it was all he could offer. As Little Fox clutched the wooden horse to his chest, Two Rivers felt the weight of commitment settling upon him. A promise made not in words but in the silent language of compassion reawakening after a long, cold sleep. By mid-afternoon, the air had grown heavy, electric with unspoken promise. Two Rivers studied the western horizon where dark clouds gathered like warriors preparing for battle. His knees ached, an old man's weather sense that had rarely failed him. Storm comes, he told Little Fox, who was tending the small fire near the cave entrance. We must prepare. The boy glanced up at the still blue sky overhead, doubt crossing his features before trust replaced it. Without question, he began gathering their few possessions that lay outside the cave. Inside, Mourning Dove rested more comfortably, the herbal remedies having eased her breathing somewhat. Two Rivers checked her fever and found it slightly reduced, a small victory though temporary. When he described the approaching storm, she nodded weakly. The desert speaks to you still, she observed. Many forget how to listen. Two Rivers didn't respond. Instead, he moved to secure the cave entrance, instructing Little Fox to gather stones to divert the water that would soon cascade down the rocky slope. The boy worked diligently, his small hands moving rocks twice the size a child his age should manage. "You are strong," Two Rivers remarked, helping position a particularly large stone. Little Fox straightened, pride momentarily brightening his worried eyes. "My father was a strong man. Mama says I have his hands." Two Rivers paused. "Where is your father now?" The boy's expression clouded. "The soldiers took him. He never came back." A familiar story, too familiar among their people. Two Rivers said nothing more, but worked alongside the child with renewed purpose. When the first wind gusts reached them, they had created a crude but effective barrier. The sky darkened rapidly, turning day to premature evening. Lightning flashed across the horizon, followed by the low rumble of thunder. Little Fox pressed close to Two Rivers as they watched from the cave entrance. "The thunder beings are angry," he whispered. "Not angry," Two Rivers corrected gently. "They are dancing. Listen to their voices. They celebrate the rain that will come." As if summoned by his words, the first heavy drops struck the earth, releasing the scent of wet dust and sage. The sporadic drops quickly became a torrent, sheets of water transforming the landscape. Inside, they settled around the small fire. Mourning Dove had fallen into an uneasy sleep, her breathing more labored as the air pressure changed with the storm. Little Fox watched her anxiously. "Tell me a story," the boy said suddenly, turning to Two Rivers. "Please." "When storms came, my mother always told stories." Two Rivers hesitated. He had been silent for so long, stories unused and gathering dust in his memory like abandoned tools. Yet the boy's request stirred something within him, an obligation to knowledge that transcended his personal exile. "I will tell you how first man and first woman came to this world," he began, his voice finding its rhythm in the ancient words. "When all was darkness and confusion." As Two Rivers spoke, Little Fox's eyes grew wide, absorbing each word. The cave transformed, no longer a place of illness and desperation, but a vessel for memory and continuity. Outside, the storm raged, water finding new paths down ancient stone. Two Rivers found himself weaving the tale with a skill he had thought forgotten, the sacred story flowing through him like the rainwater down the rocks outside. Little Fox interrupted occasionally with questions, his curiosity like a small flame in the darkness. When lightning struck nearby, illuminating the cave in stark white light, Little Fox jumped but did not cry out. Instead, he moved closer to Two Rivers, shoulder pressing against the older man's arm. "The thunder beings are listening to your story too," the boy whispered. Something brushed against Two Rivers' foot, a single feather, carried perhaps on the wind that found its way through the cave entrance. An eagle feather, its significance unmistakable to any Apache. Two Rivers picked it up, rolling the shaft between his fingers. "A gift," he said quietly, handing it to Little Fox. "From those who watch over us." The boy accepted it reverently, his small face solemn with understanding beyond his years. In that moment, as rain drummed against stone and thunder rolled across the sky, Two Rivers felt the first strands of connection being rewoven. To this child, to his people, to a world he had tried and failed to leave behind. Dawn arrived with the clean scent of wet earth. The storm had passed, leaving behind transformed terrain. Small arroyos where there had been only dust, desert plants standing taller, their thirst momentarily quenched. Two Rivers stepped outside the cave, assessing the new day with a healer's pragmatism. Mourning Dove's condition had worsened during the night, her fever spiking as her lungs struggled for air. Inside, Little Fox sat beside his mother, dabbing her forehead with a damp cloth as Two Rivers had shown him. The boy looked up when Two Rivers returned, eyes questioning. "Is today the day my mother dies?" he asked plainly. The directness caught Two Rivers off guard. Children among his people were not shielded from death's reality. But the boy's calm acceptance suggested he had faced this moment in his mind many times already. "I do not know," Two Rivers answered honestly. But her journey grows difficult. Mourning Dove stirred at their voices, eyes fluttering open. Despite her weakness, she gestured for Two Rivers to come closer. "There is something you must see," she whispered, her voice barely audible above her labored breathing. With trembling fingers, she reached beneath the quilt and withdrew a folded piece of leather. Two Rivers accepted it, carefully opening the worn material to reveal a crude map drawn with plant dyes and charcoal. "The hidden people," Mourning Dove explained, each word an effort. "North, beyond the three Mesa Sisters. Follow the canyon that drinks the morning sun." Two Rivers studied the map, recognizing landmarks despite the simplistic rendering. The location indicated was deep in the mountains where few white men ventured, rugged terrain claimed by both Apache and Navajo ancestors. "You have been there?" he asked. She shook her head slightly. "My sister's husband. He brought word before joining them." Her eyes grew distant with fever. "A place where our children still learn the old ways, where they are not beaten for speaking our tongue." Little Fox watched the exchange silently, his small hands still working the damp cloth across his mother's brow with careful attention. "It is a long journey," Two Rivers said, refolding the map. "Difficult terrain, dangerous for a sick woman." Mourning Dove's gaze cleared momentarily. "I will not reach it in this life." She reached for her son's hand. "But he must. Promise me." Two Rivers stood abruptly, moving to the cave entrance. The request, the responsibility pressed on him like a physical weight. For 10 years he had answered to no one, borne responsibility for no one. The solitude had been his shield against the pain of failure, of loss. Yet here was this woman, this child, asking him to re-enter the world of obligation and connection. To lead Little Fox to a place he himself had never sought, despite knowing of such rumors. Behind him, he heard Mourning Dove's coughing worsen. Little Fox murmured something soft and reassuring to his mother. The sound pierced Two Rivers' carefully constructed defenses. He remembered his own daughter, how small her hand had felt in his as fever claimed her, how his wife had looked to him with desperate trust, believing the respected healer could save their child, how he had failed them both. Mourning Dove called to him weakly. When he returned to her side, she pressed something into his palm, a small stone carving of a bear, worn smooth by handling. "My father's medicine," she whispered. "Protection on the journey." Two Rivers closed his fingers around the carving, feeling its warmth from being kept close to Mourning Dove's body. "There are others at this place?" he asked finally. "Healers with knowledge?" She nodded slightly. "The old ones. Those who remember what the government tries to make us forget." Two Rivers looked at Little Fox, seeing not just a child in need but the future of a people balanced on a knife's edge between survival and extinction. The boy met his gaze steadily, somehow understanding the weight of the moment. "We will try," Two Rivers said at last, the decision settling in him like a stone in a stream, changing the flow of everything that would follow. "When you are stronger, we will go north." The hope that brightened Mourning Dove's fever-glazed eyes told him she understood what he could not say aloud, that she would not be making the journey, but her son would. For 2 days, Two Rivers gathered what they would need for the journey. Though Mourning Dove's fever had temporarily abated with his treatments, her breathing remained labored, each inhalation a battle her weakened body was gradually losing. "We cannot wait much longer," Two Rivers told her on the 3rd morning, his voice low so Little Fox would not hear from where he collected kindling outside. Mourning Dove nodded weakly. "I know." Her eyes, bright with fever, held a mother's determination. "But I must go with you as far as I can. My son needs time to—" She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Two Rivers spent that afternoon constructing a travois, a frame of wooden poles lashed together with strips of hide and plant fiber. Little Fox watched intently, asking questions about each step. "This will carry your mother," Two Rivers explained, showing how the frame would distribute weight. The old ones used such carriers for those who could not walk. Like when warriors were hurt in battle? The boy asked. Two Rivers nodded. And for elders, children, or the sick when tribes needed to move quickly. Little Fox ran his hand along the smooth wood. Will it hurt her? We will make it comfortable, Two Rivers assured him, surprised by his own gentle tone. With the softest blankets beneath her. That evening, as Little Fox slept curled beside his mother, Two Rivers examined the map again by firelight. The journey would take them north through territory now claimed by white settlers. There would be dangers, cavalry patrols, ranchers suspicious of any Apache, not to mention the natural hazards of desert and mountain. Morning Dove watched him from her pallet. You have doubts, she observed. Two Rivers refold the map. Only a fool would not. Yet you will try. It was not a question, but he answered anyway. Yes. Her gaze held his. Why? You owe us nothing. Two Rivers looked away, toward the sleeping child. The answer lay there, though he could not fully articulate it even to himself. Something about the boy's unwavering trust, his quiet courage in the face of impending loss, had awakened what Two Rivers had thought long dead within him. The boy needs someone, he said finally, and perhaps the spirits have their reasons for sending him to my door. Morning Dove smiled slightly. You begin to sound like a medicine man again. Two Rivers grunted, uncomfortable with the observation. They set out at first light, Morning Dove secured to the travois with the quilt wrapped around her thin frame. Little Fox walked beside her, one hand resting on the wooden frame. Two Rivers pulled the travois, the straps across his shoulders distributing the weight. Though Morning Dove was light, too light, the added resistance made progress slow across the uneven terrain. We follow the dry creek bed, Two Rivers instructed Little Fox, pointing to the shallow depression winding northward. It will shield us from being seen at a distance. The boy nodded solemnly. I can help pull too. Two Rivers shook his head. Your task is to walk beside your mother. Tell her what you see so she does not have to strain to look around. Little Fox took this responsibility seriously, describing each cactus, lizard, and stone formation they passed with a child's detailed observation. Morning Dove smiled at her son's commentary, though pain tightened her features with each jolt of the travois. By midday, the sun beat down mercilessly. Two Rivers called a halt in the shade of a sandstone outcropping. As he checked Morning Dove's condition, he noted with concern how the journey taxed her remaining strength. The hidden place, she whispered, gripping his wrist. How far? 4 days, perhaps 5, he answered truthfully. The mountains are still distant. She closed her eyes briefly. I will not see them. Two Rivers said nothing. They both knew the truth of her words. Little Fox returned from exploring the nearby rocks, proudly displaying a small desert lizard perched on his palm. Look, Mama, it changes color with the stones. Morning Dove smiled at her son. The Creator's magic, she said. Then, her eyes meeting Two Rivers. Some journeys are not about reaching the destination. Two Rivers understood her meaning. This journey had already begun long before they set out from the cave. Perhaps from the moment Little Fox had appeared at his dwelling, asking for help. By the second day of travel, they reached the riverbed that carved through the territory like an ancient serpent. In wetter seasons, it flowed swift and dangerous, but now in the dry months, it had diminished to a shallow stream meandering between exposed rocks and sandbars. Two Rivers halted at the bank, surveying the crossing with experienced eyes. We rest here before attempting the water, he decided, easing the travois carefully to the ground. Morning Dove had grown weaker, speaking little to conserve her strength. Her breathing came in shallow gasps that seemed to pain Little Fox more than herself. The boy had not left her side except when Two Rivers asked for his help. Is the river deep? Little Fox asked, eyeing the water with evident concern. Not deep, Two Rivers answered, but the footing is uncertain. and you must learn to cross such waters. He studied the child. Can you swim? Little Fox shook his head, eyes downcast as if admitting a failure. Then today you will learn, Two Rivers said, his tone leaving no room for argument. All Apache should know how to move through water. While Mourning Dove rested in the shade of a cottonwood tree, Two Rivers led Little Fox to a calm pool formed by the river's bend. With patient instruction, he showed the boy how to float, how to move his arms and legs in harmony with the water rather than fighting against it. Little Fox was a quick study, his initial fear giving way to tentative enjoyment. "The water holds me up," he exclaimed with surprise after his first successful float. "The water is your ally if you respect it," Two Rivers explained. "An enemy only if you fear it." When they returned to Mourning Dove, she was awake, watching them with a ghost of a smile. "You teach him well," she whispered. Two Rivers nodded acknowledgement, then moved to check their surroundings. Something about the riverbank troubled him. Signs too subtle for most to notice but clear to one raised in the desert's harsh school. He found it near the water's edge. A cavalry button, recently lost, its brass surface not yet dulled by weather. Two Rivers picked it up, turning it over in his palm. The embossed eagle was a symbol he knew well, had seen on the uniforms of soldiers who had driven his people from their ancestral lands. Memories surfaced like stones in a flash flood. The sound of hoofbeats, shouted orders in the white man's tongue, the smoke of burning wickiups rising against blue sky, his wife's voice calling for their daughter as they fled into the hills. "What did you find?" Little Fox had approached silently, Apache quiet despite his youth. Two Rivers hesitated, then showed him the button. "Bluecoats were here. Recently." The boy's expression hardened beyond his years. "They took my father." Two Rivers pocketed the button, scanning the horizon with renewed vigilance. "We must cross soon and continue north. Their patrols rarely venture into the higher country." As they prepared to ford the river, Mourning Dove roused herself to greater awareness than she had shown all day. "Little Fox," she called softly, "come to me." The boy knelt beside the travois, taking his mother's hand. She spoke to him in rapid Apache, too low for Two Rivers to hear. Whatever she said made the boy's eyes widen, then narrow with determination. He nodded solemnly. "What did she tell you?" Two Rivers asked as they secured Mourning Dove for the crossing. "Sacred things," Little Fox answered with unexpected formality. "About my father's people and mine." Two Rivers did not press further. Among the Apache, such knowledge was passed when the giver deemed it time, not when others thought to ask. The river crossing proceeded slowly, Two Rivers testing each step before committing the travois to new footing. Little Fox walked beside him, small hands helping to steady the frame when the current pushed against it. Halfway across, Mourning Dove began coughing violently, the spasms shaking her thin frame. Two Rivers paused, balancing on slippery stones as Little Fox hurried to his mother's side. "Just a little further," Two Rivers encouraged them both, seeing the fear in the boy's eyes. Mourning Dove's coughing subsided enough for them to continue. As they reached the far bank, Two Rivers noted how her breathing had grown more labored, her skin paler beneath its copper tone. "We will rest longer here," he decided, finding a sheltered spot among cottonwood trees. While Little Fox gathered firewood, Two Rivers prepared more of his herbal medicine. Both knew it would only ease Mourning Dove's suffering, not cure her, but neither spoke this truth aloud. They traveled through the morning of the third day, following a game trail that wound through increasingly wooded terrain. The higher elevation brought cooler air, which seemed to ease Mourning Dove's breathing slightly, though her strength continued to fade like evening light. Near midday, Two Rivers froze, raising his hand in a signal for stillness. Little Fox immediately stopped, his young senses alert to the warrior's sudden vigilance. "What is it?" the boy whispered. Two Rivers pointed to a wisp of smoke rising above the tree line ahead. Someone has made camp. They approached cautiously, Two Rivers leaving the travois with Little Fox while he scouted ahead. The camp belonged to a solitary white man, a bearded figure tending a small fire outside a crude lean-to shelter. Not a soldier, too, Rivers noted, but a frontiersman by his dress and equipment. Weighing their options, Two Rivers considered avoiding the stranger entirely. But Mourning Dove's worsening condition and their dwindling supplies argued against caution. He returned to Little Fox and his mother. "There is a white man ahead," he explained. "One alone." Fear flickered across Little Fox's face. "Will he hurt us?" Two Rivers studied the boy. "Not all white men seek to harm our people, but few welcome us." He glanced at Mourning Dove. "Your mother needs rest in a better shelter than we can make quickly." Decision made, Two Rivers instructed Little Fox to stay with his mother while he approached the stranger openly, hands visible to show peaceful intent. The white man spotted him quickly, reaching for a rifle before noting Two Rivers carried no weapon. He kept the rifle ready but didn't aim it directly. "That's far enough," the man called in English when Two Rivers was 20 paces away. Two Rivers stopped, responding in the same language. "I travel with a sick woman and child. We seek no trouble." Surprise registered on the bearded face. "You speak good English." "I have had reason to learn," Two Rivers replied evenly. The man studied him, weathered eyes narrowing. "Army looking for renegades all through these parts." "We are not renegades. The woman is ill with the lung sickness. The boy is her son." A long moment of assessment passed between them before the white man lowered his rifle slightly. "Lung sickness, you say? Consumption?" Two Rivers nodded. The stranger sighed, conflict evident in his expression before he seemed to reach a decision. "Bring them in. Got some shelter at least. Name's Mackenzie." When Two Rivers brought Mourning Dove and Little Fox to the camp, Mackenzie's eyes widened at the woman's condition. Without comment, he helped transfer her from the travois to his lean-to, arranging his own blankets to make her more comfortable. Little Fox stayed close to his mother, watching the white man with undisguised suspicion. Mackenzie noticed but didn't seem offended. "Boys got good instincts," he commented to Two Rivers as they collected more firewood. "Trust should be earned." As evening approached, Mackenzie surprised them by producing a small silver harmonica from his pocket. The instrument caught the fading sunlight as he turned it in his hands. "Used to play this of an evening," he explained, seeing Two Rivers' curious glance. "Been a while." After a simple meal of jerky and beans, Mackenzie raised the harmonica to his lips and began to play, a melancholy tune that drifted through the trees like a spirit voice. Little Fox emerged from the lean-to, drawn by the unfamiliar sound. "What is that?" he asked, his wariness momentarily overcome by curiosity. "Music box," Mackenzie answered, offering the instrument for inspection. "Belonged to my wife." "Where is she now?" Little Fox asked with a child's directness. Sorrow flickered across the weathered face. "Gone. Fever took her and our little girl 3 winters past." Two Rivers, who had been watching silently, felt an unexpected kinship with this gruff white man. Both had known similar loss. "That why you're out here alone?" he asked. Mackenzie nodded. "Town has too many ghosts." He retrieved the harmonica from Little Fox and offered it to the boy. "Want to try?" The child looked to Two Rivers for permission, a small gesture that stirred something profound in the older Apache's chest. He nodded once. As Little Fox produced his first tentative notes on the harmonica under Mackenzie's patient instruction, Two Rivers checked on Mourning Dove. She was awake, listening to the music, a peaceful expression softening her pain-drawn features. "The spirits work in strange ways," she whispered when Two Rivers knelt beside her, "bringing us to a white man with music and kindness." Two Rivers didn't respond, but as he watched Little Fox and Mackenzie by the fire, he wondered if perhaps the path to the hidden people involved lessons he had not anticipated learning. Morning brought mist clinging to the trees and a decision to be made. Mourning Dove had passed a restless night, her coughing spells growing more frequent. Two Rivers prepared a stronger medicine from his dwindling supplies, but the relief it offered was temporary at best. Mackenzie approached as Two Rivers knelt beside the stream, washing the small cup he used for brewing herbs. "She won't make it much further," the frontiersman said quietly. "Not over the terrain ahead." Two Rivers didn't look up. "I know. Where you folks headed anyway?" Two Rivers hesitated, years of caution making him reluctant to share their destination. Yet something about this solitary white man suggested he could be trusted, or perhaps Two Rivers was simply growing desperate. "There are stories," he said carefully, "of a place in the mountains, Apache who live free from the reservation." Mackenzie's expression revealed nothing. "Might be stories is all they are. The boy's mother believes otherwise." A long silence stretched between them, broken only by the stream's gentle murmur. "Knew an Apache guide once," Mackenzie finally said. "Worked with him during my trapping days. He spoke of hidden trails only his people could follow." He gestured toward the forbidding mountains ahead. Said the old ones marked paths with signs most white eyes would never notice. Two Rivers studied him. "You know of these paths?" "Know of them. Wouldn't say I know them." Mackenzie stroked his beard thoughtfully. "But I've seen things in these mountains. Stone piles where no stones should be. Marks on trees that aren't natural." Hope stirred in Two Rivers' chest, the first he'd felt since beginning this journey. "Can you show us?" Mackenzie nodded slowly. "Might be able to point you toward a starting place. Army patrols don't go there. Too steep, too many places for ambush." When they returned to camp, Little Fox was sitting beside his mother, the silver harmonica clutched in his small hand. He'd been playing softly, simple notes that seemed to soothe Mourning Dove even as her breathing grew more labored. "We leave soon," Two Rivers told him gently. "Mackenzie knows of paths that may lead us to the hidden people." Little Fox's eyes widened. "He will come with us?" "Just to show you the way," Mackenzie clarified. "Got business elsewhere after." They prepared to leave, Two Rivers carefully transferring Mourning Dove back to the travois. Her eyes flickered open as he secured the blankets around her. "The map," she whispered, her voice barely audible. "Check the map." Two Rivers withdrew the leather map from his pouch, unfolding it where both he and Mackenzie could see. The frontiersman studied it, then pointed to a formation marked with simple strokes. "Three Mesa Sisters," he identified. "And this here must be Spirit Canyon. If your hidden folk are anywhere, it'd be beyond that ridge." He traced a route with his finger. "But there's no trail marked on any white man's map that goes that way." "There wouldn't be," Two Rivers said. They set out before midday, Mackenzie leading them on a game trail that gradually ascended into rockier terrain. Two Rivers pulled the travois carefully over the uneven ground, watchful of every bump that might cause Mourning Dove additional pain. After an hour's travel, Mackenzie stopped at a seemingly unremarkable clearing. "Look there," he said, pointing to a jumble of stones that appeared random to casual observation. Two Rivers approached, recognition dawning as he circled the formation. The stones formed a pattern visible only from certain angles, a pattern he had seen in childhood when traveling with tribal elders. "A marker," he confirmed, something like reverence in his voice. "The old ones placed these to guide those who know how to see." Little Fox joined him, studying the stone cairn with intense curiosity. "What does it mean?" "It shows the true path," Two Rivers explained, pointing to an almost invisible trail leading up a steep incline. "One hidden from those who would do our people harm." Mackenzie nodded. "Found 7 such markers over the years. Always felt they were speaking a language I couldn't understand." As they continued, following the secret trail, they discovered more stone markers placed at crucial junctures. Each confirmed they were on a path created by Apache hands, preserved through generations despite all attempts to erase their presence from these mountains. Late afternoon brought them to a high ridge. In the distance, thin wisps of smoke rose from beyond a forested valley, too controlled to be wildfire, too small to be a white settlement. "Could be your hidden folk," Mackenzie observed. Mourning Dove, who had been silent for hours, stirred at these words. Her eyes opened, seeking the distant smoke with desperate hope. "We are close," she whispered. "The spirits have guided us true." They made camp that night within sight of the distant smoke, deciding against approaching unknown territory in darkness. Mackenzie announced he would leave at dawn, having fulfilled his promise to show them the hidden trail. "My path goes elsewhere from here," he said, sharing the last of his coffee with Two Rivers. "Got trading to do downriver." Two Rivers nodded, understanding the frontiersman's reluctance to approach an Apache settlement. Even one who had shown kindness would not be welcomed there. Morning had come, and with it, Mackenzie's departure. He had left the silver harmonica with Little Fox, pressing it into the boy's small hand with gruff affection. "Music speaks when words fail," he'd said. "Might come in handy." Now, as midday approached, Two Rivers led their diminished party toward the valley where the smoke had been spotted. Mourning Dove drifted in and out of consciousness, her breathing shallow but persistent. Little Fox walked beside Two Rivers, his young face set with determination. The first sign they were being watched came as they entered a narrow pass between towering rock formations. Two Rivers sensed rather than saw the observers, a prickling awareness born from years of desert survival. "We are not alone," he murmured to Little Fox. "Be calm. Show no fear." They continued forward until a voice called out in Apache from the rocks above. "Stop where you stand. Who comes to this place?" Two Rivers raised his empty hand in the traditional peace gesture. "I am Two Rivers of the Chiricahua. I bring a sick woman and her son seeking shelter among the free people." Silence followed, then the subtle sounds of movement. 3 warriors appeared on the trail ahead, bows ready but not drawn. Their clothing was traditional Apache, unmarked by white influence. No cavalry buttons, no reservation-issued cloth. The eldest of the 3 approached, studying Two Rivers with careful scrutiny. Recognition slowly dawned in his weathered face. "Two Rivers," he repeated. "The healer who vanished after the Bear Creek massacre." Two Rivers stiffened, surprised to be remembered after so many years. "I am no longer a healer. Yet you bring the sick to our door," the man observed with irony. His gaze shifted to the travois and the woman lying upon it. Then to Little Fox, who stood straight despite his evident exhaustion. From further down the trail came the distant sound of drumming, a steady heartbeat rhythm that seemed to emanate from the earth itself. Little Fox turned toward it, his expression brightening with recognition. "Mama said we would hear the drums," he whispered to Two Rivers. "The sound of our people still alive." The lead warrior gestured to his companions, who moved to examine Mourning Dove. Her eyes fluttered open at their touch, focusing with effort. "Cousin," she whispered to the elder warrior, "we have traveled far." The man's stern expression softened with shock. "Morning Star's daughter? We thought your family taken in the raids." "My mother's name was Morning Star," she confirmed weakly. "I am Mourning Dove." The warriors conferred briefly, then turned to Two Rivers. "You will come with us. Our medicine people will attend to her." They proceeded down the trail, 2 warriors now helping Two Rivers with the travois while the elder led the way. Little Fox walked close beside his mother, occasionally reaching to touch her hand as if reassuring her of his presence. The drumming grew louder as they descended into the valley. Then, rounding a bend in the trail, they beheld the hidden settlement, a collection of traditional wickiups and more permanent structures nestled in a protected basin surrounded by steep cliffs on 3 sides. Children paused in their play to watch the strangers approach. Women looked up from work at cooking fires and weaving looms. Elders sat in the shade of a central ramada, their expressions revealing nothing. Two Rivers felt the weight of every gaze. 10 years since he had walked among his people. 10 years of self-imposed exile. Now he returned bearing the burden of a dying woman and her son, and the weight of his abandoned responsibilities. The drumming, he now saw, came from a large lodge at the center of the settlement. A ceremony was in progress, one he recognized from childhood. The rhythm called to something deep within him, awakening memories he had tried to bury in the desert's endless silence. The healing lodge, the elder warrior explained, following Two Rivers' gaze. You remember such things, healer? Two Rivers did not answer. But Little Fox, looking up at him with those penetrating eyes, seemed to sense the turmoil beneath his stoic exterior. We found them, Mama, the boy said to Mourning Dove. Just like you said we would. Mourning Dove was carried directly to the healing lodge, a large, circular structure built of timber and earth. Two Rivers followed reluctantly, Little Fox's hand gripped tightly in his own. The boy had refused to be separated from his mother, and something in his determined stance had prevented even the warriors from arguing. At the entrance to the lodge, they were met by an elderly woman whose face was mapped with the deep lines of a long life. She wore her gray hair in traditional braids wrapped with strips of red cloth, and around her neck hung several medicine pouches similar to the one Two Rivers still carried. I am Sees Far, she introduced herself. I keep the healing ways. Her sharp eyes assessed Mourning Dove's condition, then shifted to Two Rivers with unmistakable recognition. Swift Hand, she said, using his healer name. You return to us at last. Two Rivers stiffened. I am called Two Rivers now. A knowing smile crossed her weathered face. Names change. Knowledge remains. She gestured them inside. Bring her. Quickly. The interior of the lodge was dim, lit by a central fire that sent smoke curling toward an opening in the roof. Several pallets lined the walls, though only two held patients. An elderly man sleeping peacefully and a young woman tending a recently bandaged arm. They placed Mourning Dove on a prepared pallet near the fire. Little Fox immediately knelt beside her, his small face a mixture of hope and fear. Sees Far moved with the efficiency of long practice, examining Mourning Dove while issuing instructions to two younger women who assisted her. Two Rivers stood awkwardly to one side, caught between his instinct to help and his vow to abandon healing. You know this sickness? Sees Far said to him, not a question but a statement. You have treated it before. Two Rivers nodded stiffly. It takes many of our people, yet not all. She opened a large basket beside the fire, withdrawing a bundle of dried herbs wrapped in soft deerskin. The familiar scent triggered memories Two Rivers had long suppressed, of his apprenticeship, of countless hours learning the properties of each plant, of the sacred responsibility of healing. Will you stand idle while your knowledge might help? Sees Far challenged, holding the herb bundle toward him. Two Rivers hesitated, years of self-imposed exile warring with the healer's instinct that had once defined him. Little Fox looked up at him, eyes pleading where words would not come. Slowly, Two Rivers knelt beside Mourning Dove and accepted the bundle from Sees Far. His fingers unwrapped the deerskin with practiced movements, revealing plants he had once known as intimately as his own heartbeat. Water and fire, he said quietly. A clay pot. Fresh pine needles if you have them. The younger women moved quickly to provide what he requested. As Two Rivers began preparing the medicine, Sees Far nodded with approval. The hands remember what the mind tries to forget, she observed. Throughout the afternoon, Two Rivers worked alongside Sees Far, relearning rhythms he had abandoned a decade ago. They bathed Mourning Dove with herb-infused water to reduce her fever, created poultices for her chest, brewed teas to ease her breathing. Little Fox watched every move, occasionally helping when asked, his solemn attention never wavering. As sunset approached, Mourning Dove's breathing seemed slightly less labored, though Two Rivers knew this might be temporary. a brief respite rather than true healing. You have not lost your gift, Caesar told him as they stepped outside the lodge to gather fresh air. The spirits still speak through your hands. Two rivers stared at the mountains turning gold in the evening light. The spirits abandoned me long ago. Did they? She countered. Or did you turn from them in your grief? Before he could respond, a commotion near the center of the settlement drew their attention. A group of warriors had returned from hunting, bringing deer and wild turkeys for the community's evening meal. Among them was a tall man whose bearing marked him as a leader. Tall Elk, Caesar identified him. He leads the council now. Two Rivers watched as the man distributed the hunt among the families. There was something familiar in his features, though Two Rivers could not place the memory. He will want to speak with you, Caesar continued. Many questions will be asked about why you have come. I came because a child asked for help, Two Rivers said simply. Nothing more. Caesar's knowing smile returned. The spirits often speak through the mouths of children. She handed him a small bundle of sage and sweetgrass tied with sinew. For tonight's council, to clear the air of old ghosts. Two Rivers accepted the sacred herbs, their presence in his hands both comfort and accusation. 10 years since he had participated in tribal ceremonies, 10 years of denying his place among his people. Inside the healing lodge, Little Fox had fallen asleep beside his mother, exhaustion finally claiming him. Mourning Dove's eyes opened briefly as Two Rivers checked her condition. You are healing again, she whispered. Two Rivers had no answer for the simple truth of her words. As night fell across the hidden valley, Two Rivers was summoned to the council lodge. Little Fox had awakened and insisted on accompanying him, refusing to leave his side with stubborn determination that reminded Two Rivers of the boy's first appearance at his dwelling. Was it only 5 days ago? The council lodge was larger than the others, with a central fire pit surrounded by sitting places arranged in a circle. 8 elders had already gathered, including Caesar and the warrior who had first recognized Two Rivers on the trail. Tall Elk sat directly opposite the entrance, his position marking him as the council's leader. Two Rivers and Little Fox entered, standing respectfully at the threshold until Tall Elk gestured them forward. Swift Hand returns to the people, he announced, using Two Rivers' healer name. With strangers seeking shelter. Two Rivers remained standing, Little Fox a silent shadow beside him. I am called Two Rivers now, he corrected quietly. I bring Mourning Dove and her son, Little Fox, who sought my help when she fell ill. An elder to Tall Elk's right, a man whose face bore the scars of old battles, leaned forward. Why should we welcome one who abandoned the people in our time of need? The question hung in the air, sharp as an arrowhead. Two Rivers felt Little Fox press closer to his side, sensing the tension. I do not ask welcome for myself, Two Rivers answered. Only for the woman and her child. Caesar spoke next, her voice carrying the authority of age and wisdom. Mourning Dove is daughter to Morning Star, sister to Night Walker who was wife to Stonemaker. A murmur passed through the council at these names. Tall Elk's expression shifted subtly. Stonemaker was my cousin, he said. He was taken by Bluecoats 3 winters past. Two Rivers glanced down at Little Fox with new understanding. The boy's father had been kin to the council leader, a connection that explained much. About Mourning Dove's determination to find this place. She fled the reservation to save her son from the white man's school, Two Rivers explained. The sickness took hold during their journey. An elder woman with white braids spoke next. And why did she seek you, Swift Hand? You who have lived apart. Before Two Rivers could answer, Little Fox stepped forward, his small voice steady in the hushed lodge. My mother dreamed of him, the boy said. The spirits showed her his face and told her he would help us find our people. The directness of the child's words created a moment of surprised silence. Then Tall Elk reached beside him and lifted a carved wooden staff decorated with eagle feathers and painted symbols, the talking stick of tribal councils. "Let all speak in turn," he declared, passing the staff to his right. For the next hour, the council questioned Two Rivers about his years away, about how Morning Dove had found him, about their journey to the hidden valley. The talking stick moved around the circle, each elder speaking with the measured consideration of those who had survived against overwhelming odds. When the stick reached Seasfar, she fixed her gaze on Two Rivers. "Swift Hand was our most gifted healer before grief drove him into the desert. Now he returns, guided by a child, and his hands remember their purpose." She turned to Tall Elk. "Is this not the way of the spirits, to bring back what is lost when it is most needed?" Tall Elk considered her words carefully. "The people face new threats," he acknowledged. "Army patrols venture closer each moon. We have lost 2 hunters to white man's bullets this season." He directed his next words to Two Rivers. "If you wish to stay among us, you must serve as healer. Our medicine people grow few, and the sicknesses many." Two Rivers felt the weight of the moment, the crossroads he had avoided for a decade now directly in his path. "I came only to bring the boy and his mother to safety," he said, "not to reclaim my place." "Yet here you stand," Tall Elk countered. "In our council, in our healing lodge, your hands once again doing the work they were meant for." Before Two Rivers could respond, Little Fox stepped forward again, standing straighter than his small frame seemed capable of. "My mother is dying," he said, the simple truth stunning the council to silence. "But Two Rivers promised to keep me safe. He will stay. He will heal people again." The absolute certainty in the boy's voice carried more power than any elder's wisdom. Two Rivers stared at the child, wondering when Little Fox had understood what he himself had been unwilling to accept. Tall Elk studied them both, then nodded slowly. "The boy speaks with the clarity of innocence. Let it be so." Dawn light filtered through the smoke hole of the healing lodge, illuminating Morning Dove's face with gentle radiance. Two Rivers had spent the night tending her, applying poultices and administering herbal teas prepared according to Seasfar's guidance. Little Fox had finally succumbed to exhaustion, curled on a small pallet nearby. Two Rivers studied Morning Dove's features as she slept. The fever had broken sometime in the night, and her breathing, while still labored, seemed less desperate. Not healing, the disease had progressed too far, but perhaps a reprieve, a few more precious days. Her eyes fluttered open, clearer than they had been since their journey began. "Water," she whispered. Two Rivers helped her drink, supporting her shoulders with gentle hands that had remembered their healer's purpose. "The council?" she asked after settling back. "They will allow us to stay," Two Rivers answered. "Your son spoke on our behalf. He has your courage." A ghost of a smile touched her lips, and his father's stubbornness. Her fingers plucked weakly at the beaded pattern adorning the edge of her dress, an intricate design of mountains and rivers rendered in tiny blue and white beads. Two Rivers noticed the pattern properly for the first time. Something about its specific arrangement tugged at his memory, a family design, one he had seen long ago. "This beadwork," he said slowly, "it bears the mark of the Mountain Water Clan." Morning Dove nodded slightly. "My mother's people. Your people also, Swift Hand." Two Rivers went still, the implications of her words washing over him like cold river water. "You knew me before. I was a child when you left," she confirmed. "After your wife and daughter were taken by sickness. My mother was your wife's cousin." The connection struck Two Rivers like a physical blow. His wife's family, a branch he had deliberately forgotten in his grief, cutting himself off from all that reminded him of his loss. "Why did you not tell me this when we first met?" he demanded, his voice rough with suppressed emotion. "Would you have helped us if you knew?" she countered gently. "Or would the pain of remembering have turned you away?" Two Rivers had no answer. She was right. He might well have refused to accompany a child connected to his past life, to the family he had failed to save. Little Fox stirred on his pallet, sitting up and rubbing sleep from his eyes. He moved immediately to his mother's side, relief washing over his face at seeing her awake. "Mama, you're better. For now, little one," she said, touching his cheek with trembling fingers. "Two Rivers has good medicine." The boy looked up at Two Rivers with absolute faith, a trust the healer knew he had not earned. "I told the council you would stay and heal people." Before Two Rivers could respond, Far entered the lodge carrying fresh herbs and a small pot of stewed roots. She nodded approvingly at Morning Dove's improved condition. "The fever breaks, but the battle continues," she observed. "She must eat to keep strength." As Far prepared a broth, Two Rivers stepped outside for a moment of solitude. The settlement was already active with morning routines. Women grinding corn, men repairing tools, children carrying water from the stream. Normal life continuing despite the constant threat from the world beyond their hidden valley. Tall Elk approached, his expression solemn. "Our scouts bring news," he said without preamble. "Bluecoat soldiers search the foothills. They follow the trail of a woman and child who escaped the reservation." Two Rivers understood immediately. "They seek Morning Dove and Little Fox." Tall Elk nodded. "They have white trackers with them. If they find the stone markers," the implication was clear. Discovery would mean destruction for this last free enclave of Apache life. Two Rivers felt the weight of responsibility settle more firmly on his shoulders. His arrival had brought danger to these people, yet another burden to carry. "I will speak with the council again," Tall Elk continued. "We must decide whether to move deeper into the mountains or prepare to defend this place." When Two Rivers returned to the healing lodge, he found Morning Dove watching Little Fox as the boy carefully sorted healing herbs under Far's guidance. The tenderness in her gaze held the knowledge of limited time, a mother memorizing her child's every movement. She turned to Two Rivers, reading the concern in his face. "The soldiers come," she stated simply. He nodded, taking a seat beside her. "Your son has found his people, as you wished, but I have brought trouble to their door." Morning Dove's hand found his, her grip surprisingly firm. "You have brought him home," she corrected. "To your home as well, if you will claim it." The council debated through the day and into evening. Two Rivers attended at Tall Elk's request, offering what knowledge he had of current military patterns and tactics, information gleaned during his solitary years on the periphery of white settlements. "They will not stop searching," he told the assembled elders. "The Army views every Apache off the reservation as a threat to be eliminated or captured." The oldest council member, a man called White Hawk whose wrinkled face had witnessed the tribe's long struggle, spoke with the weight of bitter experience. "They wish to count us like cattle, to know where every Apache sleeps, so we can never rise against them again." Tall Elk considered all views before making his decision. "We will move the children, elders, and sick higher into the mountains at first light. Warriors will remain to watch the soldiers' movements and lead them away from our true path if possible." As the council dispersed, Little Fox approached Two Rivers. The boy had spent the day helping Far gather medicinal plants, learning the healing ways with remarkable quickness. "Will my mother be strong enough to travel?" he asked, his young face serious beyond his years. Two Rivers placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Far and I will ensure she is carried safely," he promised, though he doubted Morning Dove could survive such a journey in her condition. Little Fox studied him with those penetrating eyes that seemed to read thoughts. "You will come with us?" The question hung between them, simple in its asking, complex in its implications. Two Rivers had not planned to stay beyond delivering Morning Dove and her son to safety. Yet now, reconnected to his people, his healing knowledge once again flowing through his hands, the path forward seemed to branch in unexpected directions. "Yes," he answered finally. I will come. The distant sound of a bugle call shattered the evening stillness before Little Fox could respond. Two Rivers stiffened, recognizing the military signal. It came from much closer than expected, the foothills just beyond the valley's protective ridge. Warriors materialized from lodges, weapons in hand. Women began gathering children, moving them toward the prearranged escape route at the valley's northern end. The community's response was immediate but disciplined, a people long accustomed to threat. Two Rivers rushed to the healing lodge, finding Far already preparing Mourning Dove for transport. The younger woman was fully conscious but alarmingly weak, her brief improvement fading as the disease reasserted its grip. They come sooner than we expected, Far said, her efficient movements belying her advanced age. Someone must have guided them past the outer markers. The accusation in her tone was clear, suspicion falling on the white man, Mackenzie, who had helped them find the hidden trail. No, Two Rivers shook his head. He would not betray us. Though he had known the frontiersman briefly, Two Rivers had recognized in him a kindred spirit, another who had chosen solitude after loss. Another bugle call echoed, followed by the distant sound of hoofbeats. A young warrior burst into the lodge. They have found the South Pass, he reported breathlessly. 20, perhaps 30 soldiers with trackers. They will reach the valley by morning light. We move now, Far decided, signaling for the younger healers to prepare the travois for Mourning Dove. Little Fox appeared at the entrance, clutching the silver harmonica Mackenzie had given him. I heard the bugle, he said, his voice steady despite the fear evident in his eyes. Go with the women and children, Two Rivers instructed. Help the younger ones stay quiet on the journey. The boy straightened, chin lifting in defiance. I stay with my mother, and with you. Before Two Rivers could argue, Mourning Dove called weakly from her pallet. Let him remain close, she pleaded. Please. Two Rivers recognized the unspoken truth in her request. She wished to keep her son near in what might be her final hours. He nodded reluctantly. Outside, the settlement had transformed. Essential supplies were being distributed, weapons prepared, escape routes organized. Tall Elk moved through the controlled chaos, issuing calm directives that kept panic at bay. The most vulnerable must be on the trail within the hour, he told Two Rivers. You and Far will guide them to the summer hunting grounds beyond Three Sisters Mesa. And you? Two Rivers asked, already knowing the answer. We will remain to confuse the soldiers, lead them on false trails. Tall Elk's expression was grim but resolute. And if necessary, make our final stand here rather than live in their prisons. As Two Rivers helped secure Mourning Dove to the travois, the distinctive crack of a rifle shot echoed across the valley. The soldiers had arrived sooner than anyone anticipated. Chaos erupted across the settlement. The first rifle shot was quickly followed by others. The soldiers had divided their forces, approaching from multiple directions. The carefully planned evacuation dissolved into urgent flight. Two Rivers made a swift decision. We cannot reach the northern pass, he told Far as they sheltered behind a storage lodge. The soldiers will cut us off before we get there. The old woman nodded grimly. The eastern ravine. It is steeper, more difficult, but they will not expect us to take that route. Two Rivers glanced at Mourning Dove, now fully conscious on her travois, Little Fox clutching her hand. Her eyes met his, understanding passing between them. The eastern ravine would be brutal for someone in her condition, but staying meant certain capture. Go, Tall Elk urged, appearing suddenly with 3 young warriors. Take as many of the vulnerable as you can gather quickly. We will create a diversion to draw their attention westward. Two Rivers hesitated. For 10 years he had avoided conflict, had refused to take sides in the ongoing struggle between his people and the encroaching whites. Now he found himself thrust back into that struggle, with lives dependent on his decisions. His hands moved of their own accord, reaching for the bow one of the warriors carried. The young man surrendered it without question, along with a quiver of arrows. "I will help create the diversion," Two Rivers said, testing the bow's draw. "I know these soldiers' tactics. Sees far can lead the others to the ravine." Tall Elk studied him briefly, then nodded. "3 war cries will signal when you should begin moving the people eastward. Until then, keep them hidden." As the warriors melted away into the growing darkness, Little Fox tugged at Two Rivers' sleeve. "You promise to stay with us?" he accused, eyes bright with fear and determination. Two Rivers knelt to the boy's level. "I will rejoin you before you reach the ravine," he promised. "But first I must help ensure your safe passage." Little Fox's small jaw set stubbornly. "I can help too. I'm fast and quiet." Two Rivers began to refuse, then paused, recognizing the child's need to act rather than merely be protected. "Yes," he agreed finally. "You can help by staying with your mother and keeping others calm and silent. That is a warrior's task too, protecting those who cannot protect themselves." Pride straightened the boy's thin shoulders. He nodded solemnly and returned to his mother's side. Two Rivers moved toward the western edge of the settlement, where fires had been deliberately set to draw the soldiers' attention. He positioned himself in the shadows of a rock outcropping, the familiar weight of the bow in his hand connecting him to a past he had tried to forget. From this vantage point, he could see soldiers advancing through the trees, their blue uniforms ghostly in the moonlight. Their discipline was evident, no shouting, no unnecessary shots, their movements coordinated by hand signals. This was not a chaotic raid but a planned operation. Two Rivers waited, perfectly still, as the first soldiers entered the clearing where several empty lodges stood. When the officer raised his hand to signal a halt, Two Rivers drew and released in one fluid motion. His arrow struck the ground directly before the officer's horse, causing it to rear in panic. Immediately, Tall Elk and his warriors let out war cries from 3 different locations, creating the impression of a larger force. Arrows rained on the soldiers from multiple directions, aimed not to kill, but to create confusion and fear. The soldiers responded with rifle fire, shooting at shadows and movement. Two Rivers changed positions repeatedly, loosing arrows that whistled uncomfortably close to the soldiers without striking them. The goal was not to inflict casualties that would bring severe retribution, but to create enough chaos to cover the escape. 3 distinctive war cries finally pierced the night. Tall Elk's signal. Two Rivers released one final arrow that struck the officer's hat, knocking it from his head, then retreated swiftly through passages only the Apache knew, circling back toward the eastern side of the settlement. He found Seas Far marshaling a group of 20, mostly children, elderly, and 3 pregnant women. Mourning Dove lay on her travois, her breathing more labored from the stress and movement. Little Fox stood beside her, helping a younger child who wept silently. "We must move now," Two Rivers urged, taking up the travois handles. "The diversion will not hold them long." As they began their ascent toward the ravine, guided by starlight and intimate knowledge of the terrain, Two Rivers glanced back at the settlement. Flames now illuminated several lodges, whether set by the Apache as part of the diversion or by soldiers in retaliation, he could not tell. Little Fox followed his gaze. "Our home," he whispered. "Homes can be rebuilt," Two Rivers replied gently. "People cannot be replaced." Dawn broke over the mountains, painting the peaks with golden light while the valleys remained in shadow. Two Rivers guided the group through the ravine's upper passage, a treacherous path that only those intimately familiar with the land would attempt. They had traveled through the night, stopping only when absolutely necessary to rest the elderly and tend to Mourning Dove. Her condition had deteriorated rapidly during the flight. Now, as they reached a sheltered plateau where Seas Far declared they would rest, Two Rivers knew Mourning Dove's journey was approaching its end. Her breathing came in shallow gasps, her skin pale beneath its copper tone. Little Fox had not left her side, his small face set with exhaustion and worry beyond his years. Two Rivers knelt beside them as the others in their group collapsed in grateful rest. "We have reached safety," he told Morning Dove softly. "The soldiers cannot follow where we have come." Her eyes fluttered open, finding his face with effort. "Little Fox," she whispered. "He is here," Two Rivers assured her, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Safe, as I promised." Morning Dove's hand moved weakly to her throat, fingers fumbling with a leather cord hidden beneath her dress. With tremendous effort, she drew forth a necklace, a simple pendant of polished turquoise set in silver, hanging from a braided horsehair cord. "For my son," she managed, her voice barely audible. "From his father's mother. Our family's protection." Little Fox watched, silent tears tracking down his dust-covered face as his mother placed the necklace in Two Rivers' hand. "You will tell him," she whispered, her gaze holding Two Rivers with surprising strength, "of his people, of his heritage, of his mother who loved him enough to find his true home." Two Rivers closed his fingers around the necklace, feeling its weight, not just of stone and silver, but of responsibility, of promise, of connection. "I will," he vowed. Morning Dove's attention shifted to her son. She spoke to him in Apache, soft words of love and encouragement that Two Rivers did not try to overhear. This moment belonged to mother and child alone. When she finished, Little Fox placed his small hand on her cheek, wiping away a tear that had escaped her control. "I will remember, Mama," he promised. "Everything." Morning Dove smiled, a true smile that transformed her pain-drawn features into a brief vision of the beauty she must have possessed before illness claimed her. Then she turned again to Two Rivers. "You found your way home too," she whispered. "The circle closes." Her eyes drifted shut, her breathing gradually slowing until, with one final exhale, Morning Dove completed her journey in this world. Little Fox remained beside her, his hand still resting against her cheek, his tears falling silently. Two Rivers did not move to separate them. He understood the boy needed this moment of farewell, this transition from child with mother to child in the care of the tribe, in his care. Seas Far approached quietly, having witnessed the passing from a respectful distance. "She found what she sought," the old woman observed. "Her son's place among his people." Two Rivers nodded, opening his hand to reveal the turquoise necklace. "She asked me to keep him, to teach him of his heritage." "And will you?" Seas Far asked, though she seemed to already know the answer. Before Two Rivers could respond, movement at the ravine's edge caught their attention. Tall Elk appeared, followed by several warriors, all bearing signs of the night's confrontation but none seriously injured. "The soldiers have withdrawn," Tall Elk reported, approaching the small group. "They burned several lodges but did not find our food caches or winter supplies." His gaze fell on Morning Dove's still form, then on Little Fox who remained at her side. "She has walked on to join her ancestors," Two Rivers confirmed. Little Fox finally looked up, his young face transformed by grief yet somehow stronger. "She found our people," he said, "just as she promised." That afternoon, they buried Morning Dove on the mountain plateau, facing east toward the rising sun. The tribe gathered stones to mark her resting place, each member contributing to the cairn that would stand as testimony to her courage and determination. When the simple ceremony concluded, Two Rivers knelt before Little Fox and placed the turquoise necklace around the boy's neck. "Your mother's final gift," he explained, "a symbol of your family's strength." Little Fox touched the pendant, then looked up at Two Rivers with those penetrating eyes that seemed to see beyond surfaces to the truth beneath. "You are my family now," he said with quiet certainty. Two Rivers, once called Swift Hand the Healer, once a man who had turned his back on his people and his gift, felt the last walls around his heart crumble. "Yes," he agreed, placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "We are family now."